Alrighty. To no shock of anybody, the highest grossing film of 2012 is Marvel's Avengers, which I think for the time is extremely worthy. Of the time. That's hence the reason I put the caveat there. Oddly, a movie that has not aged well in the eyes of even fans. It's kind of crazy. Because, I mean, for a long time, that held or challenged the record for highest grossing film of all time. It's wild.
Mhm.
No other notables this year. This was a strong year. Dark Knight Rises, Hunger Games, Skyfall. It made a lot of money even though it's not good. Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2. Have I seen it? No. Like I said, never seen it. But can't be good. It's Twilight. Amazing Spider-Man, the first one with Andrew
I've
Garfield.
seen it. It's garbage.
Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. Brave, the first Hobbit film, Unexpected Journey. Uh, Other popular stuff during this year is Ted, Magic Mike, Wreck-It Ralph, Django Unchained, Pitch Perfect, which is apparently the college-aged women of my age group. It's one of their biggest fucking comfort movies.
Yep.
And Universal just won't let it die.
Yeah.
NBC
It's
Universal will not let that goddamn franchise die. They're like, nope,
yeah.
there's still more here. And
It's because it's so cheap to make them.
and in a big re-release in 3D, Titanic came out this year as a re-release and made some money.
Yes. Yes. Yes, it did.
Again, I don't have a ton of changes and or shout outs, but strong year. Strong year.
Technical changes.
So I'll start with just quick shout outs, that things they got correct, and then I'll do my one change.
Oh, sure.
In what should be the most obvious win of all time is the most obvious win of all time, and that is Skyfall winning for original song. Voice of an Angel, Adele. Love
I
you.
don't know about most obvious win of all
No,
time.
I'm quite certain that is the most obvious win in Oscar history, possibly.
No, 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 no.
Dude, if I swear, if you could write a wrestling style sign of if Adele doesn't win, we riot in the stands, I don't know what Oscar win could. That was so abundantly clear that not only was she going to win, that she deserved to win for that.
No, I mean I agree she deserved it. I just don't know about most obvious of all time.
I want to do a show one time where we go through Oscar's history and we just go, yep, obvious, yep, yep. I think that's up there. Original screenplay, it did not win, but I'm glad it got a shout out. I would have thought about it at the very least. Was one of my favorite films, Moonrise Kingdom. I'm glad
Oh,
that
sure. Yeah.
I'm glad that got a shout out. A wildly underrated film from Wes Anderson, and I honestly, for me personally, I think it's his best work. Outside of, it's my favorite. But I think it's wildly
Okay,
underrated.
sure.
Everyone's gonna go Grand Budapest or Life Aquatic. I think I would go.
That's my favorite. This Grand Budapest.
And animated feature, I would have changed. Brave wins, and I think Paranorman or Wreck-It Ralph are better.
That's one of my changes is Wreck-It Ralph over Brave.
And I'm glad to see Paranorman got a nom, but I think Paranorman's better than Brave.
And I will stand up for Brave. Everyone shits on it. I do think it's actually a good movie.
Yes, it is.
It's just comparatively, like, people have a tendency to say, oh, it sucks because it won over the other two. But it's like, no, it's still a solid movie.
I think Saul is a great operative word for it. I think it is a classic, above average, middle of the road movie where you're like, yeah, it's good. But nothing
Yeah.
about Brave, everything about Merida as a character and kind of the story of Brave itself screams, in comparison to a lot of movies of that ilk, screams, you should love this to me. And I still just go, it's fine.
Yeah. I do like the three little, like, triplet ginger brothers
Oh,
just wreaking havoc on the kingdom.
well, naturally. I mean, as two gingers, of course we love that shit. um,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think Wreck-It Ralph is a better film, personally.
Yeah.
And I also think Paranorman's a better film. And the animation style of Paranorman's beautiful. I
I haven't
adore.
seen that since it came out.
Paranorman's so good. It's one of those that
Um,
again, working with kids again during Halloween time, I'll just play, and the first thing they see, they're like, "I've never heard of this. I don't want to watch it." Within 2 minutes, they're just like, "I'm so glad you showed us this movie." I'm like, "I know.
yeah,
That's why I put it on for you."
I had two more that I wrote down. One I just completely don't understand. I had I would have changed it so the Hobbit won makeup and hair over Les Mis. I just straight up don't understand why Les Mis won.
I
Like, what's impressive about them making people look dirty? Like,
I was going to write that down, especially because the characters on screen specifically, this isn't Lord of the Rings where they're morphing one outside of the ears of Legolas. They're
yeah,
morphing one character mostly with makeup. And I know Ian McKellen has some, not
hmm
much. Where like Gimli's the only one you really
well,
have
yeah.
to
I mean, his
morph.
entire beard is fake and his
Right.
wig and everything.
Yeah. Like Gimli's the only one where facially you have to do a lot of work outside of like fake beard and wig to morph. With the Hobbit, almost every character on screen at
Yeah,
all times has to be done in really good makeup.
yeah. And the thing is, like Les Mis, when I think about that movie, I don't think about anything that's impressive with their hairstyling or makeup.
Talk about a movie that we'll talk about in Beck's Picture as well. Talk about a movie that doesn't
Oh
have
yeah,
staying power at all.
not at all. Yes. I used to really enjoy that movie at the time. I still kind of like it, but yeah, yeah, that has not aged
Yeah,
well.
I
Um,
didn't write that one down because I was like, am I just forgetting something about about Les Mis that
no, it's just people looking dirty, and that's about it. Because it's the French and whenever the fucking revolution was.
all right, I'm gonna pause the comment then when we get to Best Picture, but I have a question for you on that one. So if I forget to ask, please remind me what
Okay.
was your question.
Okay. And then my other one was this is like a really big one that I really wanted to mention because they never give any kind of shout out or they never recognize any kind of horror movies. I would have really liked to see a sound mixing award for Sinister.
Okay.
I love the like quiet sound mixing where they put in the film reels
Okay.
ticking along and it just creates this like eerie sense of dread throughout the entire movie and it's probably like the best sense of sound in a horror movie in a long time
Okay.
because it's not score that they're using to create atmosphere. It's just completely just sound, and you rarely get that in horror.
That's interesting. Yeah. Never would have thought about
And
that,
yeah,
but
they never appreciate horror in any kind of way at the Oscars ever.
until
So
Get Out, yeah. And Get Out's more
and
psychological
that's
thriller.
yeah, and I was gonna say that's barely a horror movie. So those are the technical changes. So jumping into the five, we got Ang Lee winning Best Director for Life of Pi, Daniel Day Lewis winning for Lincoln, Jennifer Lawrence, Silver Linings Playbook, Christoph Waltz winning his second Oscar for Django Unchained,
Goddamn right.
and Anne Hathaway for Les Mis.
Did Jamie Foxx get nominated for Django?
No, he did not, I
I'm a
believe.
little
Let
surprised
me
by that one.
let
I
me
thought
make
he might.
sure. He did not.
I was
No.
a little surprised when I saw that last night doing notes. I was like, really? Okay. I mean, interesting.
Yeah,
Also,
I mean
how
the other
did Leo get a nom for supporting actor?
no.
That's horseshit. Like that's legit horseshit.
That was like the big thing was like should Christoph Waltz even be considered supporting actor, because he's in the majority of the movie.
It's more co-lead with Jamie
Yeah,
Foxx than it is. Yeah, I get it.
it's one of those things where like the studio just pushes what they want on that kind of thing.
But it feels like
But yeah,
he could win supporting actor. He couldn't win
true.
actor.
And that could be a thing where they don't want Leo going up against their own, like them competing for the same award,
Because with all
splitting
due
the vote.
respect, I think Christoph Waltz is a deserving winner for that role. But Leonardo DiCaprio is the high
Yeah,
point of that film. Or honestly, I could have saw a nom for Sam Jackson in that role too.
he's not in it enough, but yeah, he is great in that movie.
I think all four of their principal actors, because all due respect to Kerry Washington, she's not really doing much in that movie.
Yeah,
Uh,
she's also not in it much.
those four really, really carry that movie with performance. Where you're like, God
Yeah,
damn, they're good.
I just saw an interview with Sam Jackson where he was talking about, does he have a problem with Quentin Tarantino like using the N word and like racist language and stuff, and he's like, I've never understood why people have a problem with it because every character he's created for me is always like the most intelligent character in the movie. And it's true. Like
That is
Samuel Jackson's
that's an
character in
interesting,
that movie is
super
probably
intelligent.
the most intelligent character in the movie. So it's just interesting. I could see Jamie Foxx getting a nomination. The other nominees for actor are Bradley Cooper, Silver Linings Playbook, Hugh Jackman, Les Mis, Joaquin Phoenix for The Master, and then Denzel for Flight.
Yeah.
I would have been totally fine with trading out either Bradley Cooper, Denzel, or Hugh Jackman, honestly. I would have kept Joaquin Phoenix and The Master for sure, but
I
I would have
mean,
been fine with
it's a strong category though. You know,
it.
it's
Is
not.
a strong category. Yeah.
And I think it just speaks to Jamie Foxx's performance that you're like, well, I could swap it out with any of these, and I don't think any of these are undeserving to be
Yeah.
nominated. So
Also, one of the
it's a
things to
strong
mention,
year for the Oscars in general in terms
yeah,
of.
one of the things to mention about supporting actor that's weird is Christoph Waltz won every single award for the guilds, but he was not nominated for a Screen Actors Guild award at all. So it's really, really weird because you rarely get that where someone's not nominated for a SAG award, but then is nominated for an Oscar and then ends up winning it.
Yeah, it's an interesting
Because
twist
the
there.
voting bodies are pretty similar.
I didn't fight it. Let's get to Best Picture here. I didn't fight it.
Oh, just a couple quick
Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
shout outs. I just had a couple quick shout outs for supporting actor. Michael Caine in Dark Knight Rises
Fair.
and Javier Bardem in Skyfall.
Yeah, I was looking for a category because I was like, Skyfall didn't get enough love, but I just didn't know like what category was I really going to be like, come on, come
Yeah,
on.
Skyfall actually has one of the. I didn't know this was possible at the time because when I was watching the Oscars live, they have the first tie that I had ever seen live.
Oh
Where
really?
they won. They tied for sound mixing, I believe it was. No, sound editing. They tied with Zero Dark 30.
I honestly could have seen a writing award for Skyfall. It's a really well written movie too, and
Yeah,
cinematography as well with Skyfall is really good.
they just tend not to nominate genre stuff. So,
Well, specifically,
um,
James Bond never gets
oh,
any recognition whatsoever. But yeah,
also we before we get into picture, we have to bring up the fact that literally every single Guild Award went to Ben Affleck for Best Director, and he was not nominated at all for an Oscar. Just straight up not nominated.
yeah, but then Best Picture wins, right? It's Argo,
Yes, it's
which
just
makes
so
no
confusing.
sense. It's
But no, like literally, he wins the DGA, he wins Critics' Choice, he wins the BAFTA, he wins the Golden Globe for Best Director, all of them, and then just straight up is not nominated for an Oscar for Best Director. It's like the most confusing thing in recent Oscars history, and then it ends up winning Best Picture. It's
Makes
just
no
so
sense.
baffling. So
What the?
Best
I
Picture,
do. Yeah. Now that you say that, I remember that, and I was like, "That's bullshit." Like,
yeah, and the thing about it, like, I'm glad I did all this research because I didn't realize he had swept all the other Guild Awards. I just thought, like, oh, it's weird that he won Best Picture without even being nominated for Best Director.
yeah.
Because that's weird enough as is. But now that I know he swept all the other awards with it, that's like crazy.
Yeah.
So jumping into picture, Argo wins it. Other nominees: Zero Dark 30, Lincoln, Silver Linings Playbook, Amour, Beasts of the Southern Wild, Life of Pi, Les Mis, and Django Unchained.
If I were gonna change it, I'd pick Django, but that's not what I was gonna
Okay.
talk about. But I think Django is phenomenal. I think Argo is great too.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a movie just designed to win an Oscar? Like, if you were to create, like AI in a lab said, we must create the best picture winner for an Oscar, they would spit out Les Mis. It's a period piece musical with really big time actors, and it's a popular
Yeah.
stage play that they or stage production that they already know works. If that does not scream, we are trying to win an Oscar here, I don't know what does.
I think they're not doing it in the right age though. Like I think had that Les Mis come out maybe in like
98.
yeah, like in that late 90s, early 2000s range, that would have been a perfect
Oh, that's a sweeper. That's gonna
movie
sweep
for
everything.
then.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little late for musicals now in the Oscars age, because very rarely do you get one that's actually good, honestly. Do you have any changes? Because I have one where you just mentioned it's one of your favorite movies, Moonrise.
I thought about it. I just didn't know if I could argue it. I would have liked to see a nom for Moonrise Kingdom. It's just got so much heart to it. It's such an endearing. Your
Yeah,
term is cozy. Like, I can tell that that's your term when you're like,
yeah,
it's
it
such a nice
is.
cozy movie. Moonrise Kingdom is one of those that I used to just scour online what streaming service had Moonrise Kingdom, and I would just go find it and just rewatch it and rewatch it and rewatch it. I adore that. It's so good.
Yeah,
It's so good.
this is where you get a lot of like general public starting to appreciate Wes Anderson too.
Yes.
I feel like so. Yeah, I had Moonrise Kingdom jumping in for a nomination, and The Master jumping in for a nomination, and I took out Les Mis and Beast of the Southern Wild. Beast of the Southern Wild's perfectly fine. It's just pretty forgettable to me. And then
Also,
Les Mis, yeah,
if I'm
like we
being
said, it's just
if I'm being completely
fine.
selfish, I would have took out Les Mis for Skyfall. So
Sure. I mean, that's completely understandable.
I think Skyfall is a truly magnificent film. Everything in that film
If you're,
works.
yeah, I mean,
Everything.
if you're talking about action movies, it's hard to be better than that. I mean, I like Casino Royale more, but like Skyfall is a more
I think Skyfall is a more character-driven piece than Casino Royale, which is
sure.
interesting because a lot of people are like, "Oh, the character work of Casino Royale," but
Well, I was gonna say it's like a finer tuned action movie.
yeah,
Yeah, so overall, I do think this is actually a pretty good year for the Oscars because
yeah,
I think Argo, Lincoln, Life of Pi, Django, Zero Dark 30. Those are all like pretty solid movies that I would have been okay with winning.
Yeah.
Um, there's just a couple that like, yeah, and then this is also where you start getting a lot of Anne Hathaway unwarranted hate.
For no reason, because she's
Yeah,
also in an awesome movie that year, Dark Knight Rises. So, and she say what you will, because I know it is not the most beloved Batman movie. Anne Hathaway is great in The Dark Knight Rises. She's
I do
arguably,
like her in that.
I think she's the best part about that movie.
No, Michael Caine is.
Michael Caine's not enough of the movie for me to say that.
He's great in it though.
I think Anne Hathaway is magnificent in that.
Um, okay, so before we jump into 2013, the Rising Star Award.
We still got to do our favorites, so it's cool.
Yeah, 2012, you got Juno Temple, Alicia Vikander, Andrea Riseborough, Elizabeth Olsen, and Suraj Sharma.
That's not a bad
Suraj,
category. That's a pretty strong
yes,
category.
Suraj Sharma is the lead in Life of Pi, and he was also in that $1 Million Arm movie. Remember that? The Disney John Hamm baseball movie.
Oh yeah, that movie did release. That was a
And then
movie. I forgot about that.
and then Andrea Riseborough, if you don't know her, she was in Birdman, and she was also in that Tom Cruise Oblivion movie.
The Tom Cruise movie I didn't see. Yes,
Oh, okay, you didn't see it. Okay.
I loved how you're like, if I'm gonna get him, it's gonna be the Tom Cruise movie, and it's like the one that
Yeah, that
that was during that era where I didn't just blindly go to see Tom Cruise movies, where I was like, you still gotta sell
yeah.
me a little bit, Tom.
Well, there's also a weird thing, Andrea Riseborough, I think last year,
What?
she got nominated for Best Actress, but there was this weird like controversy where everyone was all upset in the industry because she had like this weird grassroots campaign that ended up being successful for her, and it had like no studio backing, and everyone was like all pissed off about it. It's like, what? That's how it should work. Like that's
That
how.
people actually saw the movie, liked the movie, and wanted
Yes,
you to
and it's like,
win.
why is that a bad thing? Why are we arguing against this?
Oh, you mean the constant criticism of the Oscars? There's some truth to it that they're just sniffing their own farts. Yeah,
Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me. I don't.
that
Maybe I just don't know the full
I'm
story,
glad
but
I don't know the full story then, because frankly, or I'm glad I didn't know that, because that would have made me again lose even more faith in the
I
Academy.
mean, she did end up getting a nomination, so I'm glad. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if that has always been and always will be the issue with the Oscars, when you don't recognize
Well, yeah,
films that
those
people
giant producers. Yeah.
when you don't recognize films that people actually watch, that sell tickets, that make the movie industry possible. All due respect to some of these movies, I'm truly not shitting on any movie of any kind. But when you're making these period piece movies that half the time can't even make their budget back, especially in a modern context, and then you don't recognize big time movies that sell tickets and keep the industry alive to the point where movie theaters still exist or things of that nature. Like, that's why people don't have faith in this fucking thing, and they're like, oh, it's a fun party to have every year. And then everyone just goes,
Yeah.
why
Well,
wasn't this nominated? That's bullshit. Why was that nominated? That movie sucked. Whatever.
yeah. It's always an unfortunate part of it is when you get giant producers who can just throw money at a campaign.
Like
It's
that.
just like politics where money can pretty much solve any problem.
Yeah, no, no bueno on that one. Who was the rising star that year?
Juno Temple, which surprised me. I'm not sure why though.
Dark Knight
Like,
Rises,
but
she's in that. And I think she's in one
she
other
is.
thing around that time. Yeah, she's Selena's
She is.
friend.
She is in an atonement, but that's like way before 2012.
I mean, that would be
Um,
that's a strong race in terms of who I think is better off of the three obvious choices of that group now. Because
yeah.
Alicia Vikander's been in like higher quality stuff, but she usually doesn't do a ton.
I of those five, I would have picked her. Well, like with hindsight,
Yeah.
Like she's the
Elizabeth
standout.
Olsen is clearly the most relevant of that group because of her
Yes.
Marvel involvement, but she is doing more stuff that's getting her attention outside of Marvel now. And Juno Temple, her most relevant thing to most people is Ted Lasso. So,
Yeah, exactly.
it's an interesting group, to say the least. Favorite movie of 2012?
Uh, oh, good question. Why don't you answer? I'll Google real quick to
I
make
was
sure.
flabbergasted again. Strong year for your boy here. I love The Dark Knight Rises. I am one of the people that absolutely adores that film, and I adore Skyfall. If Skyfall's probably my favorite Bond movie, and I love James Bond. No Time to Die and Casino Royale, and maybe GoldenEye are also in that mix for me, but Skyfall is incredible. But I think if we're actually thinking of my true favorite, it's probably Moonrise Kingdom. I adore Moonrise
It's
Kingdom.
a solid movie. I haven't rewatched it in a long time. I should. I
It's got your girl Frances McDermott from Fargo.
she's in like yeah, like every movie ever. Um,
That's actually one of the few
I
movies I've ever seen with Frances McDermott.
oh that's true because you haven't seen a lot of the Coen brothers.
No,
I'd probably say either Argo or Skyfall, probably.
there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's got three of my
I
top
don't
100.
I don't love Skyfall all that much. I like Casino Royale a lot more than Skyfall,
Okay.
but yeah.
Yeah, Skyfall's so good. And Dark Knight Rises, I'm an apologist for. I have no problem with saying that. I love The Dark Knight Rises. I think it's great. Is it flawed? Yes.
Yeah, well,
Do I care?
we'll end up
No.
watching that, won't we?
I don't know. It's
Oh
not the
no, we
highest
won't.
grosser because it's
Never
Avengers.
mind, it's the Avengers.
I think
So
eventually one day on the
I'd
show,
rather watch that.
I think one day on the show we're probably just gonna cover every Batman movie anyways. So
Oh God.
eventually that's the content that you gotta get into. You know? So
I mean, if it ends up with us watching the Batman, then I'm fine with it.
but yeah, that was 2012, which was again strong year, in my opinion, for movies.